Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Thank you, son of Rob Bartlett. And I know that makes you mad, but I don't care. Because if you get in my way, if you offer me any trouble, you're going to be out of here. Excuse the expression, at warp speed.
Yeah, see, at first I didn't know what you were doing, and then I realized what you were doing. Joe Gimateo.
I would like to say rest in peace to the second greatest country singer of all time, Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Lost him over the weekend. Second, of course, to Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Absolutely.
Seconding that. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. Before we do that, though, I have a special announcement for all of our listeners out there. I've been talking to Paulie J over at the PJWF, that's the Paul Johnson Wrestling Federation, and we are working with him to set up another fantasy booking, this time to coincide with our Royal Rumble show. We don't have a lot of details yet. We've ironed out the contracts, and we're ready to do business. But before we have details, in the meantime, just do us a favor and check him out. You can find him on Twitter at PaulyJ2685. That's PAULYJ2685. And on Instagram, that's at PJWFMANIA, PJWF Mania. What do you guys think about that?
I'm pretty psyched. I mean, the last time with Donk and Undertaker was absolutely phenomenal, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great. We only have a couple weeks here till the Royal Rumble, so we better start thinking of some fantasy bookings for Paulie J.
I have an idea, but I won't throw it out there quite yet, but I'm rather taken with it. We'll see what happens, though. We have to have some private time discussion on that one. But
ooh, private time.
Mm-hmm. Get out the French tickler.
Sexy saxophone.
Yes. Sexy saxophone and answering machine messages from Lex Luger. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on January 9th, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Summit in Houston, Texas, and features Vince McMahon and the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So, a little change of pace here. The show's going to start off with the music and intro sequence. No bullshit to get into it. Happy anniversary, Monday Night Raw. This show is claiming to be live, and Vince is back with us, roaring a welcome to the home of the NBA champion Houston Rockets. There's a pretty loud set of pyro happening, but it is not as loud as Vince. Vince tells us that there's going to be some celebrating tonight. We're going to have the Intercontinental Championship match between Razor Ramon and Owen Hart. But before that, we're going to have the huge television motion picture megastar, William Shatner. And the King is going to boldly take him where he's never been before. We're going to have some pre-recorded comments from Jerry the King Lawler. This is a little bit of I guess you'd call it a continuity error, because Vince tells us that we're going to have some comments from Jerry the King Lawler, but we cut to the locker room where William Shatner is there with some pre-recorded comments. And the Shat is going to cut a promo on Jerry the King Lawler. I don't think I should try to do the voice, so I'm just gonna quote it. Look, I know all about Jerry Lawler and the King's Court. The King's Court is more like the home of the Whopper. And I know that makes him mad, but I don't care. See, if he gets in my way, if he offers me any trouble, he's going to be out of here, if you'll excuse the expression, at warp speed. I'm here to promote Tech War, not to fight, not to wrestle. So, Lawler, leave me alone. Before we do anything else, Ryan, please give us your opinion on the Shat here and his promo.
He flubbed a couple words here, but to be honest, for just a amateur coming in here shooting a promo, I was pretty surprised. Not too bad out of Shatner.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pro at this kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
he did flub a couple things, but he comes off as kind of a, what do they call it, a character baby face, where he's kind of like, kind of a cocky baby face type of character. So I thought it was pretty good.
I agree. I was pleasantly surprised. I've been too used to things like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. You're
watching Raw, buy my book, and that's it. You know?
With gum chewing.
Yeah. We'll get to more of the Shat later. But following the Shatner promo, we're going to go into our first match of the night. Owen Hart defeats Razor Ramon by disqualification in 13 minutes even, with Razor Ramon retaining the Intercontinental Championship. Razor's coming out, he's looking good, and he's really soaking it up. It would have been a better entrance, in my humble opinion, if the pyro would have been synced up. It seemed like there was a bit too much of a delay between his actions and the pyro being triggered. That's something that has been kind of hit or miss lately with a lot of this. It seems like they're still trying to figure out how to do pyro correctly. It's not a choreographed spectacle like it will eventually become, but it is getting bigger and bigger as time goes on, so we'll just keep up with some status updates there. High energy hits, and here comes Owen Hart down to the ring with a look of determination on his face. As soon as he enters the ring, Owen gives us some nugget gold. When the referee for the match, Earl Hebner, is holding up the Intercontinental belt to signify that this will be a title match, Owen grabs the belt out of Hebner's hands and holds it aloft as though the title has been his all along. I loved it. Razor, however, didn't love it. He goes over and he spins Owen around and into a clothesline that brings the lights up and gets this match started. Razor picks the belt up and attempts to bash the back of Owen's skull with it while Owen is still on all fours getting up from that clothesline, but Hebner takes it off of Razor at just the right moment. The action begins with Razor whipping Owen off the ropes and into a back body drop. Razor makes it look effortless. Owen gets great height with this move. While Owen is getting to his feet, Razor nails him with a running clothesline over the top rope and out to ringside. Owen is staggered and uses that to lure Razor Ramon into coming over against the ropes, where Owen ambushes Razor and snaps Razor's head down over the top rope, flinging Razor backwards. Owen climbs to the top rope, but Razor is back to his feet already, catches Owen, and slams Owen from the top rope. Owen now backs off and tries to wave off Razor's advance, but no dice, as Razor grabs Owen, whips Owen to the opposite corner, and the impact here on the turnbuckles and ring post was massive. I'm sure Owen didn't have to try too hard to sell that shit. Razor doesn't wait, though. Razor whips Owen again to the opposite corner, and this time Owen goes chest first into the turnbuckles, rebounding onto his back, where Razor is going to cover him for the first pinfall of the match. There's a tight 2 count before Owen kicks out, and this time Owen is going to take the initiative and whip Razor to the corner. Owen attempts to hit Razor with a running shoulder block, but Razor sidesteps, and Owen goes shoulder first into the ring post. Again, that sounded and looked rough. Owen is cringing in the corner after that, and I can't blame him. But Razor is going to take advantage of that hit. When Razor brings Owen out of the corner, Razor does a whip crack snap with Owen's arm, putting Owen to the mat, using the same arm and shoulder that just impacted with the ring post. Razor goes to work on that arm here, and Owen sells the shit out of it. Razor continues to work on the shoulder now, shoulder checking Owen's injured shoulder and giving him more arm snaps until finally leveraging Owen down into a modified armbar. Owen has been selling all of this perfectly. Razor paintbrushes the back of Owen's head while holding the armbar, and Owen works up the grit to stand up out of the armbar. Razor doesn't let go, though, and instead gives Owen a kind of, I called it a propeller spin. It wasn't quite a traditional propeller spin, but he stays in the center of the ring while swinging Owen around by that arm, and he manages to do it just in the right spot to keep Owen from grabbing any of the ropes and forcing the ref to release the hold. Razor spins Owen back down to the mat again, and with another whip snap into another arm bar. Razor allows Owen to stand back up again, but only so that Razor can perform a kind of slam that looks like a choke slam, but instead of gripping Owen's throat, he grips the armpit of the shoulder that he's been working on during this match. Owen is writhing in pain as a crowd chant goes on for Razor. This is when Owen rallies, though, does a series of superb athletic flips to reverse the tension that has been applied to his shoulder, and takes the offensive. The offensive doesn't last long at all, though, because Razor whips Owen into the corner and then lands one hell of a clothesline. It sounded stiff as hell. Razor gets a 2 count out of that and then puts Owen back into a brief armbar before moving back into the center of the ring. There's a quick telegraphed reversal where Owen gets out of Razor's hold. Then Owen slaps Razor across the face, prompting Razor to come back after him. Owen whips himself off the ropes, attempts a crossbody splash, but Razor catches him and reverses it into a crossbody throw. Razor now calls for the end of the match and attempts to set up Owen for the Razor's edge, but they're too close to the ropes, and Owen reverses and lifts Razor out of the ring over the top rope and to the floor outside. Owen then whips himself off the ropes again, but this time it's a suicide dive through the ropes, and Razor is caught off guard. Owen takes him down to the concrete. Owen tosses Razor back into the ring after a couple punches, then goes to the top rope for a splash. Owen lands the splash, but when he transitions the splash into a roll-up, Razor keeps it going and reverses into his own roll-up, getting a 2 count. We're going to cut to commercial just as Owen lands a drop kick, and we'll return with Owen still in control, giving Razor some corner whips of his own. Razor catches Owen's foot when Owen tries to give Razor a boot to the gut, but Owen takes the opportunity to give Razor an enziguri, dropping Razor to the mat. Owen gets a 2 count here, then strangles Razor on the second rope, getting a pinfall. The action slows down to a headlock here, and I have to say here that a headlock is a simple thing, but I can't remember a duo that made it look this good. And this is something that made me go back and rewatch those arm bars. I'm starting to get a better appreciation of these simple holds when there are two people doing them that actually know what the fuck they're doing. Razor fights back to his feet. Owen attempts another crossbody that is somewhat successful. Owen gets a pin with a 2 count. Owen is then able to leverage Razor into a backbreaker, especially impressive here for Owen given the size difference, and gets another 2 count out of it. Owen jumps onto Razor's back, locking in a sleeper hold. Razor stays standing, and this looks great. Both guys sell this sleeper hold fantastically. Again, I can't think of a pair that has sold simple holds this well. Razor rallies to a crowd chant and manages to slam Owen out of the hold. Razor falls over onto Owen for a desperate pin, gets a 2 count. Razor then lays in a trio of punches that ends with Owen on the mat. After another tight series, Razor ends it with legit chokeslam this time. Razor tries to get Owen onto the top rope, but we get another series that ends when Owen picks up Razor, holds him up as if he's setting up an atomic drop, but instead drops Razor on the top rope. Razor rolls back into the ring just in time for Owen to climb to the top rope and land a missile dropkick. While Razor is down, Owen is tying Razor up into the sharpshooter. Just as Owen gets Razor turned over, Bret Hart runs down to the ring to a huge pop. Hebner calls for the bell, and the match is over as a result of the Hitman's interference. Owen gets the win, but does not get the Intercontinental title as a result of this interference. Bret is going to town with Owen in the ring, and as it gets going, Double J Jeff Jarrett runs down to the ring, punching Razor Ramon, then climbing into the ring to attempt to give Owen the save. Razor climbs back in, though, and Bret Hart and Razor Ramon take turns, hitting Double J back and forth like a ping pong ball. With every hit, the roadie is at the ringside freaking the fuck out.
It's absolute pandemonium.
Finally, Double J manages to scramble out of the ring, and the roadie is there to shepherd him off towards the entryway. It's formally announced that Owen is the winner, and Owen loses his shit over the fact that Bret just cost him the belt and begins trying to go after Bret. The officials have to hold him back. Razor gives Bret a low 5 to say thanks for the assist, just as we start to hear the sexy swinging sounds of a saxophone. Before we move on to our next segment, though, Joe, please give us your thoughts on this much-anticipated match.
Yeah, much anticipated, and it delivered, for sure. I have a few things about the match itself, and then a few things about the two superstars in this match. I love the spotlight graphics on the entrance walkways with the razors and the hearts. It's something that we see a lot right now, and it's just something that I really enjoy. I think it's very 1990s. Very nostalgic. The production and camera work for this show is live, and it's different. It's better. It's in a larger arena. There's definitely no piped in sound. To me, it was just a better production compared to the other shows that we've seen recently. This was not some bullshit throwaway title match. One could easily think that Owen was going to become the Intercontinental Champion on this night. I mean, it could have happened. Great use of the overhead cameras, again, similar to what we saw during the ladder match. So that's just a few things about the match itself. Talking about these two guys here, I mean, again, this podcast is a nice reminder of Owen Hart is one of the greatest of all time because he doesn't really get the credit he deserves. Bartlett, you mentioned the greatness with these two with the simple holds. Owen hitting those buckles. I mean, he hit those buckles so goddamn hard. He was fully into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A move that you see a lot is a guy throwing his shoulder into the post, but he just did this perfectly. Getting thrown into the post, shoulder actually looked like it slammed into the post, and he just sold it just perfectly. Flying to the outside for the suicide dive, that's a move that you see in almost every wrestling match now, but you never saw it back then. So that was fantastic. As far as Razor, you mentioned the sleeper hold. It was an excellent counter by Razor. He didn't just do the typical, elbow the guy in the gut. He kind of did a twist and turn out of the sleeper hold to counter it, which I liked. Vince mentions Miami street style when he's talking about Razor, which to me is like the perfect way to describe Razor Ramon as a wrestler. It looked like Razor botched crotching himself on the ropes, but he made up for it. Like that, I've noticed that a couple times with him is that he botches a couple things, but he makes up for it quickly. Vince and Sean both mentioned Razor's vicious punches, and I agree. He throws a great, very convincing working punch every time.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, yeah. As far as commentary goes, Vince is constantly throwing in a lot of previews for other matches. Vince is doing a lot of storytelling that's not really related to this match, which kind of annoyed me a little bit. I mean, just let the talent tell the story, because you got Razor Ramon, Owen Hart, Bret Hart coming out, Double J. You just let the talent do the work, but I don't know. He was working hard to set up the stories going into the Royal Rumble, but I love this match. I'd probably give it, 4 out of 5 stars.
I mean, I'm in complete agreement. This was a fantastic match. I think this may be the first time we saw Owen come down to the ring without Bret Hart's towel since Survivor Series. So that was interesting. But when Owen grabs the belt and holds it up, it allows this moment where Razor then just hammers him and it just gets a great pop out of the crowd. It highlights what a great showman Owen Hart is, because he knows that by doing that is just going to get the crowd really into this match, and it does everything he wanted. And right out of the gate, it's a hell of a match. Last week, we were looking forward to it, and it makes sense because we both know that Razor and Owen are two of the best in the business in the WWF right now. We've all now at this point mentioned the turnbuckle hits. Even Vince says with authority when those hit. And I mean, I have to agree with them. The way that they just echo through the ring, just two great professionals here that we don't see often. I also loved the rare case of humility out of Shawn Michaels when he's talking up Ramon, just talking about how Owen has his work cut out for him. And they briefly go into the great ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Ramon as Shawn continues to put Ramon over. Just great storytelling, great way to get the crowd and the people at home involved in this match. And just simple things like Ramon at the one point, he has Owen down on the mat and he slaps the back of his head a couple times. You know, it's just a very simple thing, but it gets a great pop out of the crowd. Joe, you brought up where Vince is talking about the Miami street style.
Yeah.
It's where he says that, you know, Ramon's maybe not the most scientific wrestler in the WWF. I'm thinking to myself, you know, Vince, he might not be the most scientific, but he's certainly one of your best damn ring workers you got. Between him and Owen, is this the first time we've seen Owen since we've covered this Owen and Razor fight?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember if we've ever seen these two, but
I want to say we might have seen them in. I know we've seen them in
tag,
in tag action. Yeah,
I'm not sure we had ever seen them in singles yet, though. But
no, we have not. We have not before seen them in singles. I'm pretty damn sure of that.
Yeah. Another thing I'm going to bring up that all three of us have is that sleeper hold. I am a sucker for the classic sleeper applied to the baby face who then the crowd will start cheering for and then he rallies. I'm a sucker for it. I love it. And when it's done well, like it was by these two, it's a fantastic thing to see. Another thing out of Owen here, when he gets his clock cleaned and he gets up and he starts making the timeout motion, I was laughing over that. He's just kind of stumbling around. You also talked about how great Ramon's punches are. I had those noted too, because there's a couple times where he really lays into Owen and Owen sells them beautifully. Ramon's throwing them really efficiently. I mean, just everything about it looks good. It's unfortunate it had to end by a disqualification, but it was part of the storytelling. You know, this wasn't a pay-per-view match, so it's understandable. But aside from the unclean ending, what a phenomenal match.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with just about everything you guys have said here. Obviously, I love this match. Ryan, to your point about the ending, you know, you bring up a really great point about it not being clean, but it also being just another additional really effective piece of storytelling. Because, you know, as an Owen Hart fan, I want Owen to win the belt. You know, I know he's not going to, but I still want him to win. But then whenever Brett comes in and gives him the win for the match, but not for the belt, just like how Owen did to him in the past. And like, it's just the way that it keeps perpetuating that story of the brother versus brother angle. I loved it. I ordinarily don't like endings like that, but in this particular case, I thought it was borderline poetic. I thought it was a great way to end this particular match. I won't go into anything else too in depth here, but I just wanted to reiterate, and I don't know about you guys, but with watching the modern product, we don't see holds really all that much, and certainly not simple holds like arm bars, sleeper holds, you know, things like this. And whenever I think about it, I generally kind of poo-poo them. I don't really, it's like, well, whatever, you know, it's an armbar. I think that's maybe because we've had a accumulated total of 3 hours of Lex Luger holding people in an armbar over the past 6 months. And it really burned me out on holds. And up until this match, I was tired of them. I didn't want to see them. All they did was piss me off. But the way that these two guys did these simple holds, it was like going back and watching a movie that you haven't watched in years and realizing, hey, there's a reason why I liked this. This was pretty goddamn good. And I just want to say that I'm very happy that they did this in this match, because it's really refreshed these holds, my appreciation of these holds.
I felt the same thing watching this. It made you understand why these holds are done, Unlike when you see them with Lex and you're just like, you're doing these every 2 seconds and you're really leaning on these moves instead of just applying them appropriately like these two did.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they're major leaguers, you know, these two. It's like going to see an AHL game and then going to see an NHL game. It's like, man, you can just tell the difference in talent between what we're normally used to seeing and guys like this.
You hear that, Luger? You're B or maybe even C squad.
Right.
Yeah. What we're used to seeing. What we're used, just, you know, for the record, to remind all of our listeners, what we're used to seeing with these holds is Jim the Anvil Neidhart doing it because he's out of breath and needs to catch his breath for 5 minutes. What we're used to seeing is Lex Luger putting somebody in an armbar because he can't think of anything else to do. You know, this, I'll end it there, but awesome match. I loved it. All right, next segment. Hold on to your butts, boys. It's a Royal Rumble report. Todd Pettingzoo is here with our weekly update and manages to sound like a moron while stating the obvious when he observes how it's usually Owen that interferes, costing Brett matches. Yep, Pettingzoo, that's the story. Pettingzoo reminds us of the presence of Pamela Anderson at Royal Rumble and manages to turn it into a Kit from Knight Rider reference. Toddy then breaks down the Rumble rules, claiming the Rumble is the fastest half hour of action you'll ever see. The Intercontinental title will be on the line, Razor Ramon defending against Double J Jeff Jarrett with the roadie. The Undertaker is going to square off against IRS. Will the Druids matter to the man from the dark side? The WWF Championship is on the line, Diesel defending the title against Bret the Hitman Hart. And we're going to cut to a promo from Diesel now, standing in the locker room with the belt on his shoulder and his arms crossed, looking a little pissed off for some reason. Well, the reclusive Bret Hart has shown his face. I guess now we know he's alive and well. But Bret, I gotta know how much ring rust you've acquired. Up in Calgary there, I wonder how many of your assets have become frozen. But next week, here on Monday Night Raw, Bret, I guess not only am I going to find out, but the whole world is going to find out if you've changed. You know, Bret, for your sake against Double J, I hope you're at 100%. But even more so, Bret, oh yeah, January 22nd, you'll need to be 100% because you face me, Big Daddy Cool, at the Royal Rumble. Bret, see you in Tampa. Well, I guess Diesel is back to being a heel again here. I'm not entirely sure. And I also guess Bret is going to have a match with Double J next week, maybe? I don't know. That's the first we've heard about it, I think.
No,
correct
Vince,
me if I'm wrong, guys.
No, Vince plugged the shit out of it during that Razor versus Owen. Yeah, it was one of the things he kept talking about. That's why I was saying, like,
you
just
were paying
let them...
too attention to the match there.
Yeah,
I was too absorbed in the action. My bad. Mea culpa. Well, we're going to go back to Pettingzoo after this. He's going to repeat the time, date, and location of the Rumble for us and warn us not to be the only ones missing out on Rumble action. Ryan, what did you think about this Rumble report and more specifically this Diesel promo?
Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about Todd Pettingzoo, but the Diesel promo, I thought it was interesting. Like you said, he's pretty much being back to full-on heel here. All of the highlights of being a baby face from a few months ago seem to be gone. Other than that, it's an okay promo. He fumbles a couple words, but it's serviceable.
Yeah, he's being super shredder.
Yeah. Yes.
I think Kevin Nash as Diesel, I don't know, it just comes off as a bad actor. Kevin Nash was obviously much, much better as himself when he went to WCW later. But this is just, I don't know, he's just stuck in the gimmick, I think. I think if Kevin Nash would have just been himself during this time, it would have gone over much better, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. The one thing that I do know, though, is that I didn't care for this promo. I didn't outright hate it, but it made me kind of just, like, scunch up my face like I smelled something bad. Like, what? The fuck was that?
And thinking about Diesel versus Bret Hart, is that even going to be a match? At this point, I just think it's probably just going to be a schmoz finish with a DQ or a count out or something, you know?
Yeah, it is hard to imagine how those two are going to work together.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much thought they put into, like, okay, we've known that this match is coming for, a couple weeks now, and that it's probably going to happen, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, so, like, do they then practice ahead of time, knowing that they have such different styles?
Sure, they're having house show matches, probably.
Okay.
But, like, a Diesel and Luger match would tear the fucking house down.
Literally, the fans would riot, pissed off, demanding their money back. Okay, well, we're going to move it along to a promo from Jerry the King Lawler before we get back to ringside. Jerry Lawler says, "William Shatner, word has it that you're a pretty tough guy. Well, we may just find out on the King's Court. And if you don't show me the respect that I'm due, I may take my fist and beam you so far up you won't ever come down." I thought that was a little bit clever. Well, you don't really expect anything other than clever out of Jerry Lawler for the most part, though.
I will say I did not find that in the insult book, though.
There's not like a tech war section.
There wasn't a William Shatner section, unfortunately.
Your career is so poor that it could be called Tech War. I don't know. I just made that up because it's a poor show. Didn't last. Anyway, Vince talks over the entrance of the debut of new superstar Hakushi as we begin our next match. Hakushi with Shinja defeats Matt Hardy by pinfall in 1 minute and 6 seconds. And Matt Hardy is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. Matt Hardy is this week's jobber. As anyone listening to us know, Matt Hardy is going to go on to be a giant superstar for the WWE, along with his brother Jeff. So I'm not going to go into some of his career details, as I do for some of our lesser-known jobbers. I'm going to mainly focus on his earlier time. Matthew Moore Hardy was born September 23rd, 1974 in Cameron, North Carolina. He made his in-ring debut on October 15th, 1992, and was trained by the legend Dory Funk Jr. He has used the ring names High Voltage, Highway Reaper, Surge, Wolverine, Angus Jenks,
What?
Ishhan Hardy, Broken Matt, and Matt Hardy.
That's interesting. Or is that in reference to the modern product?
Well, that's just all of the names he's used over the years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In high school, Matt was a good athlete, excelling in both baseball and football. He was also an excellent student, receiving the Moorhead Award, a scholarship to any university in North Carolina. Hardy attended UNC, where he majored in engineering. However, after 1 year, he moved back home to take care of his father, whose health was beginning to fail. He then finished his degree at Sand Hills Community College in Pinehorse, North Carolina. In 1992, Matt, along with his brother Jeff, and a few of his friends started their own federation, the Trampoline Wrestling Federation. It was mainly a bunch of untrained guys mimicking the moves they saw on television. But shortly after the TWF failed, Matt sent a tape to the WCW using the ring name High Voltage. He never heard anything back from them. However, a few months later, a tag team named High Voltage debuted on WCW, forcing Hardy to change his in-ring name to Surge. Years later, it was confirmed by Chris Kanyon that Matt's tape was indeed watched multiple times at WCW's power plant, and High Voltage was blatantly stolen from it. Not a surprise there.
Did Gary Sabaw destroy the tape?
Yeah, really.
He got
Did
his cut.
broker that deal?
I'm sure he did. In 1994, Hardy would begin jobbing for the WWF while still wrestling on the independent circuit. And over the next few years, Matt and his brother Jeff would begin to make a name for themselves in the WWF as some of the best enhancement talent in the company, while also winning championship belts in a number of independent promotions. Matt's big break would come in 1998, when both him and his brother would become full-time WWF contracted wrestlers as the tag team, the Hardy Boys. And it's easy to say the rest is history at this point with those two. Of course, the Hardy Boys would go on to help solidify the Attitude Era of the late 1990s and early 2000s. They would bring the extreme style of wrestling to the tag team division, and competing in the very first table, ladders, and chairs match for the WWF tag team belts. I could go on for hours about the rest of Matt's wrestling accomplishments, spanning the WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, Omega. Over the decades, he has masterfully recreated himself and his in-ring persona to continuously stay relevant and popular in the wrestling world, even to this day. Just last week, in All Elite Wrestling showcased the debut of Matt Hardy in his broken gimmick, ending a few-month-long speculation within the business as to where Matt would end up after his WWE contract expired. So, yeah, it appears there is no end in sight for Matt Hardy.
Yeah, still relevant. 2020.
What was that one name? Anus Unagi?
Jingus. Or Jangus.
Jingus.
Yeah. Or I'm sorry, Jinx. Ingus Jinx. I had to scroll back up into my notes there. Ingus Janks.
Well, thank you very much, Ryan, illuminating as always. Back at the match, Hakushi comes down to the ring, dressed all in white. I have to say, I like the outfit. I still say that they are going for a Lord Raiden, God of Thunder look here, but whatever. Hakushi is accompanied by Shinja, not to be confused with the Pokemon Shedinja. Shinja is wearing all white and has his face painted in whiteface. I'm not sure exactly how to feel about that. Hakushi starts to disrobe, revealing Japanese writing all over his torso and face, while some guy in the background tries to get a USA chant going. It doesn't work. Hakushi doesn't wait for the bell. He immediately nails a running missile dropkick into Matt Hardy, who was waiting at the opposite corner. Matt Hardy does a good job of responding to Hakushi's attacks, selling moves very well. Just as I'm about to write, this is a tight match, Hakushi slips and stumbles a little bit on the apron, going off the edge. Hakushi hits Matt Hardy with a press over the top rope, getting the pin and the 3 counts. Keep in mind, this was a 1 minute and 6 second match. Joe, please get us going on this squashiest of squash matches and the debut of Hakushi.
Bless you. I don't know. I didn't really hate it. It sort of makes me think of the Aldo Montoya debut. It's kind of the same type of gimmick here. I kind of like the gimmick. I like the entrance. I like the look for Hakushi. It's something different at this time. Vince probably despises those tattoos.
Are they real?
I don't know. Probably.
I didn't notice them wiping off, but then again, it was only like a buck 6 second match, so, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of the tattoos, I kind of gasped when Shawn Michaels said that Hakushi looks like a walking menu.
Yeah.
And he said, look, that's an order of Mugu Gai Pan on his left arm. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that would not fly today.
No, that was bad. Hakushi, his finisher is kind of weak, but outside of that, I think there's some potential here. Yeah, that's all I have.
I'd kind of agree with you, Joe. It's so short, it's very difficult to get a true gauge on how he's going to look, but I thought overall, outside of his slip on the apron there, he looked pretty good. Some of his moves look solid. Hard to judge, but I'm going to say he did an okay job, and he definitely looks intimidating. When he disrobed and you see all these crazy tattoos all over his body, he certainly has the look down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. And I'm just going to throw it out that not enough time for me to come to a final judgment on the debut. I'm almost thinking that I'm going to just wipe this as his debut and take whatever his next match is as his like real debut, as long as it's longer than 1 minute and 6 seconds.
I just want to see him up against Kwang. That's it.
Yeah, that'd be great. You know what? That's a great point there too. Joe, you mentioned about his look, and I agree with you. His look is great. But let's stand him next to Kwang, the master of the martial arts. I wish we could do a side-by-side comparison. You know, that might be a good fantasy request for Paulie J one of these days.
To truly find out who is the master of the martial arts.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move it along. This is going to be, I'm willing to bet, Ryan's favorite part of the show. King's Court. It's a special edition of King's Court. This week, the guest was supposed to be Bret Hart, but instead he wants to send out his big shot Hollywood buddy. He was Captain Kirk. He was T.J. Hooker. He's a best-selling author. He's got a new show called Tech War and several Star Trek movies. William Shatner. There's a moderate pop for Shatner here. Not sure what that music they were playing for him is. I didn't recognize it. Seems like it's a little hard for Shatner to listen to the king and be upstaged at first. He keeps trying to get a word in, and it's not working. He keeps trying to say something, and the king keeps cutting him off and keeps on with the relevant information that needs to be gotten out there. The king lists all of Shatner's achievements to him and then tells Shatner to say that this appearance on King's Court is his most impressive achievement. Shatner says, no, it isn't. The king wants Shatner to tell us one thing that's better than appearing on King's Court, and Shatner replies with, I was chewing gum yesterday. Shatner is now really playing along well with the gimmick here. The back and forth is established, and it gets good. There are repeated threats back and forth between the two of them, ending with the king shaking his fist at Shatner. Shatner twists the king's arm behind the king's back and shoves the king across the ring. The king calls Shatner a joy boy, then goes for him, which Shatner is able to reverse into a monkey flip. A fucking monkey flip. Bret Hart comes out now for some reason and raises Shatner's wrist in victory, while Double J comes down also with the roadie, and this is where I just kind of threw my hands up. This is where it's off the rails. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's the end of the segment. Ryan, I know you want to get into this, so just let us have it.
Thank you. What a fantastic job by William Shatner here. Captain James, Tiberius Kirk. I loved it. I mean, okay, I'm going to admit I'm biased, obviously. Huge Star Trek fan. Love William Shatner. But that aside, I was really shocked by how good of a job he did here. Because I know I'm going to just gush all over William Shatner, but I think legitimately he did a very good job here. Better than almost any cameo we've seen so far. Right from the beginning, William Shatner, when he's walking down to the ring, when he's holding up his hands, almost like he's the queen walking down a parade. That part was great. The part where he starts talking to Lawler saying, well, yesterday I chewed gum, and he started to really get into a Captain Kirk way of talking there. Right up to the moves. I was shocked when he starts throwing Lawler around, and it was clear that they showed him a couple moves here, but he actually pulled him off pretty good for an old guy and a non-wrestler. I mean, just all around, I was impressed with the Shat here. And I'm just happy he had on those awesome 90s baggy jeans, so it was flexible enough for him to pull off these wrestling moves.
Yeah, I am not biased. I am not a Trekkie. I am a Howard Stern fan, and Shatner is on there as a regular guest quite often, and he's always pretty entertaining on that. And as far as this appearance goes, I loved it. I think that he definitely cemented himself in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame with this appearance alone. I don't know what we're going to get next week, but yeah, this was a great performance, and really a lot of credit to Jerry Lawler because, I mean, is there any wrestler aside from Hulk Hogan, I guess, that worked better with celebrities than Jerry Lawler?
Yeah.
The whole Andy Kaufman thing, and
yeah.
Even with this, like this was just like out of nowhere, and he really made it work pretty well. And I definitely enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, I never heard of Tech War until this. Apparently, it's a series of novels that he co-wrote.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Shatner wrote the novels. It was made in the comic books. It was made into shows. The premise of it was, I think, the 22nd century, and people were addicted to a drug that was basically a microchip that you would take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show didn't last long. 2 seasons, 36% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not good, but this appearance was great. Absolutely, anybody who wants to rewatch this Raw just for this segment is worth it.
Well, I am not going to disagree with anything you guys have said here. I was pleasantly surprised. I was a little hesitant going into this, especially after that promo at the beginning. I mean, that promo wasn't bad. It was just kind of like, oh, God, here it comes, like, we'll see how this goes. Certainly better than Burt Reynolds, but still kind of left you wondering what was about to happen. And at first, like I said in my little breakdown there, he was trying to get a word in edgewise on the King, but then once he figured out the cadence of the interaction and how to operate within the back and forth, he absolutely nailed it. While you guys were talking, I was trying to think of what a better celebrity guest might be.
Chuck Norris?
Rip Torn? And you say Chuck Norris and I say Rip Torn.
Yeah. Rip was my favorite. But I'm my vote doesn't count.
Well, anyway, it was one of the better ones. We'll say that. It was certainly top 3 at the very least.
Number 2 behind Rip Taylor, yes.
Okay. Rip Taylor. I called him Rip Torn. That's a different guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy from Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to gamble? All right, we're going to move it along here to a Royal Rumble commercial. Pamela Anderson is apparently arriving home to flowers in her apartment, and she presses the little button on her answering machine because it's blinking furiously with messages, and it's a message from Lex Luger saying, "Pamela, Lex here. See you after I win the Rumble. We'll go out and paint the town.
And then I'll kill you."
Yeah. I'll allow you to lay on a couch and overdose. Hey, Big Daddy Cool here. After the Rumble, why don't you and I go out and paint the town? Then, yo Pam, Heartbreak Kid here. Then, this is old Double J. And then, hey Pam, what do you say? While Pam looks at a framed picture of donk she has. WWF Royal Rumble, live only on pay-per-view. This is the first original commercial we've seen in a while. I want to say the last original WWF commercial we saw was one of those sleazy homoerotic church confessional commercials with the priest lusting over Razor Ramon.
Yeah, we haven't seen one in a long time.
Just real briefly, guys, Joe and then Ryan, what did you guys think of this little commercial?
I liked it. I think WWE, ever since WrestleMania 1, has done a pretty good job with incorporating celebrities, and I thought this was pretty good. But I think when Pam was looking at the donk picture, she should have called him back and asked him, "But will you be dinkless?"
Oh, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. We've been getting that same picture of Pamela Anderson every week. Yeah. So it was very nice to finally see her actually doing a commercial here. And it was classic 90s Pamela Anderson here, which, yeah.
I agree. I was happy to see a new WWF commercial because generally speaking, those are pretty creative and entertaining to watch for the 15, 20 seconds that they're on. So I was happy with it. That Royal Rumble commercial is going to take us into our next match. King Kong Bundy defeats Gary Sabaw by pinfall in 23 seconds. Yeah. So Gary Pay Up Sabaw is waiting in the ring as King Kong Bundy waddles down with the $1 Million Man. The beating starts immediately with Bundy whipping Gary Italy Trunks Sabaw into the corner, following him with some punches. Bundy then whips Gary I Can't Even Be a Mook Right Sabaw into the opposite corner, following again with some punches. This does drop Gary Extortion is a Legitimate Business Sabaw to the mat, where Bundy gets the pin and the 3 count. Bundy calls for 5. The ref refuses, and Bundy stomps around the ring for a second like a big fat baby. Then he goes to ringside and starts verbally berating Vince McMahon. I can't hear exactly what he's saying, other than he starts the tirade by yelling, "McMahon!" The $1 Million Man listens for a minute before trying to shoo Bundy back to the backstage. Shawn Michaels makes faces at Bundy and eventually threatens him, saying something about the Heartbreak Kid winning the Royal Rumble. This was an extremely confusing situation for me, kind of a Luger off the helicopter moment. Ryan, I thought that Matt Hardy match earlier was the squashiest of squash matches, but then we get Gary, I have to take money off of real talent Sabaw getting squashed by King Kong Pissy here. What did you think of this?
It's, as you said, 23 seconds. So we're not going to get too much of a gauge here, but Gary Sabaw, former Jobber of the Week, and if our listeners remember what he did to the Hardy Boys back there, it was really, really kind of odd to see him in the same Raw as one of the Hardy Boys. That's really all I could think about when I saw him coming down to the ring, was knowing he's going to go backstage and violate Matt later and take his money. It's just, it just felt wrong watching him on the screen here. There's nothing to really talk about 23 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I had noted was that this match lasts about as long as I would last with Pamela Anderson. But I don't think I could go 23 seconds. Now that I know it was 23 seconds, I have to take that back.
Yeah, so this is, 2 instances can't really be considered a pattern as of yet, but this is the second time we've seen Bundy do something just kind of random and nonsensical. The first time
he wasn't yelling McDonald's.
I want my Big Mac now.
Well, the first time was whenever he won. I want to say it was a squash match. Well, it was. I think it was Burt Centeno, that match where Burt didn't have a neck anymore, and after it was over, he gestured at the hard camera, like the belt gesture, as though he was in the championship picture at all.
Right. Which
he isn't.
Not by any means.
And then this interaction with McMahon at the ringside, what the fuck, Bundy? What are you doing? This doesn't make sense. Unless I'm missing something, and I don't think I am, but
Bundy's probably just going to disappear soon, right?
Yeah.
Well, one can hope.
That, and maybe, I don't know, just setting up the Royal Rumble, maybe? Is he in it?
Yes, he is in it.
Yes.
They established that during the match.
Well, again, just a really weird moment from Bundy. Maybe his sugar was low. So next we're going to have a couple, we're going to have a couple things here. Some segments real quick. First up, promotional consideration paid for by the following. Acclaim's Raw is War. The game looks great. We have a tag team tournament update. Apparently, the Smoking Guns were unable to participate in the tag team tournament, so the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Sparkplug Holly teamed up to take on Well Done. The one move that they show of the match is Bob Holly botching a leaping takedown on one of the guys from Well Done and recovering it just enough to get the pinfall. Apparently, this means that the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly will be taking on the Heavenly Bodies in the semifinals next week, and later on, the Head Shrinkers, Fatu and Sion, will be taking on Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka, exclusively on Superstars. We're going to leave that video montage and come back to a very sweaty-looking Howard Finkel standing between the Bushwhackers while they rant incomprehensibly. This seems like a nightmare. Finkel can't keep up with them. In the other dressing room, Whippleman is practicing his boxing drills with Well Done, before then showing up in the ring where Whippleman is talking with Well Done. Next, we're going to have a Kama vignette here. Tyson? Foreman? Nuh-uh, I'm the toughest guy in the sport. They kicked Kama out for not playing by the rules. And then we're going to have scenes of Kama beating the shit out of small children. Thai boxing, nobody could withstand my arsenal of punishing blows. Then more scenes of Kama annihilating preteens. I hear that the toughest men in the world are in the World Wrestling Federation. That's why I'm making the WWF my destination. Joe, did you have anything you wanted to say about the tag team tournament update, the Kama vignette, or that disturbing reminder of what's about to happen to us?
The tag team tournament, just ugly and pathetic. Kama vignette again. They're doing a great job with those vignettes, so I'm looking forward to his debut. And as far as what we're about to witness next, I have nothing on that right now.
Yeah, the tag team situation, I could only think, a few weeks ago we were talking about how Has Well Done maybe moved out of being a jobber tag team. No, it appears they haven't.
Clarification.
Yeah, this clarified they are still jobbers. I have nothing to say about the Bushwhacker Finkel thing. I did love the Kama video in his extended child abuse video this time. It was a little longer than last time. Still love it. I'm looking forward to him.
Yeah, I am going to agree with just about everything there. I still can't get over. They threw in the 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Sparkplug Holly, and the one and only move they show is Bob Holly botching a takedown, a leaping take. This is one of the simplest fucking moves he botched.
Best move of the night.
Yeah, I guess. I am officially on board with Kama now. At first, the first couple vignettes, I was like, nah, they're not bad, but, it is what it is.
You've seen the light.
Now, yes, that was a good vignette. I think the difference being...
You just needed a little bit more child abuse.
Yeah, well, no, I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say the last vignettes were overdubbed by Petting Zoo, weren't they? This is the first one where Kama's talking himself.
You might be right.
I think that's what probably did it for me, is hearing him talk himself up as well as seeing him destroy children.
Get out of here, kid.
And welcoming us to Joe's bachelor party.
Yes.
That's something for Patreons only. Kids, get out there and pledge $100 a month. All right. Well, guys,
we're there.
I'm sorry to say this is going to take us into our final match of the night. Ryan, you called it.
No need to do lowlights.
Howard Finkel with the Bushwhackers defeats Harvey Whippleman with Well Done in a tuxedo match in 2 minutes and 39 seconds.
Moving along.
Yeah. For the record, the way you win a tuxedo match is the same way you win an evening gown match, by tearing all the clothes off of your opponent. Yes, somebody there in the WWF thought that Howard Finkel and Harvey Whippleman ripping each other's clothes off in the middle of the ring to end an episode of Raw was a good idea. Whippleman goes after Finkel before the bell even rings. This is an absolute train wreck. I can't believe this is actually happening. These two are rolling around in the ring, gradually getting nakeder and nakeder. I am not entertained at all. Through a series of events that I refuse to recount here, Howard Finkel gets the win by maintaining the presence of a cummerbund. Finkel celebrates in the ring with the Bushwhackers, doing the honky. Fink is unable to maintain any kind of cadence or coordination. The celebration just keeps on going. We repeatedly get shots of Finkel walking around half nude. Next week on Monday Night Raw, Bret Hart versus Double J Jeff Jarrett. Vince welcomes us back to ringside while Shawn Michaels punks out a fan in the background, miming a punch that makes the fan flinch, and Michaels makes fun of him. Double J Jeff Jarrett appears to tough talk William Shatner. Apparently, Shatner is going to be in Bret Hart's corner next week in their match, and the roadie is going to be there too. What's going to happen? We'll find out next week on Monday Night Raw. And we're going to fade to black there. Ryan, please give us your honest opinions on this tuxedo match to round out the night.
Don't hold anything back.
Yeah, this made me want to kill myself. It was everything we nightmared about. I really don't want to talk about it much. I think Vince really explained it very well before it started when he said, "Oh my goodness, it's not exactly a Hall of Fame matchup, that's for sure." He basically took the words right out of my mouth. At one point, we could see their Raw underwear. By that, I mean it has the word Raw written on their behind side. Whippleman's looked a little bit more faded. I don't know. Maybe he put it in the wash a few more times. I think it even had a hole or two in Whippleman's where
some skidders maybe too.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's because he painted them on the skid marks.
Yeah, where the Finks looked like they were freshly pressed bikini wear there for him. But pretty disgusting. The Fink wins by a cummerbund. Shawn Michaels really, really says it correctly here where he says, "I'm about to hurl." The Fink was marching around so long in his underwear. I think this match had to run short, and they were trying to fill time because, it was a good 3 minutes of him just marching around in his tight briefs with the Bushwhackers. My Lord.
Yeah, this is the worst bra and panties match I've ever seen. This is clearly just Vince bullying these two guys, especially Finkel. It's seemingly he just loved doing that kind of stuff to Fink around this time. I guess Fink was at least a good sport about all of it.
He was.
I mean, he went along with it. If we have one more Raw episode end with the Bushwhackers, this podcast is over. I can't take it anymore with the Bushwhackers. And Ryan, I think their hats actually said Hongi on them.
Oh, I wasn't reading the hats.
I need to I don't want to rewatch this. I don't want to rewatch it to find out. But yeah, I think it said HONGI on the back. I don't want to blow past Double J's promo. I loved it, especially on the fact that it was on William Shatner.
Yeah.
He starts out by saying, "Listen up, you tech war geeks." I thought it was a great promo to end the show.
I also love the roadie there doing the Vulcan hand sign while still crouching, of course.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about this match other than I'm glad we're past it. I know I've said this, I want to say at least twice now, but hopefully this means that the Finkel-Whippleman feud of 1994 is officially over and we can all move on with our lives because, Joe, I kind of agree with you. If we have to keep doing this shit, I don't know about canceling the podcast, but I'm going to start showing up drunk. I'm just telling you guys that now.
Start?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go from high functioning to low functioning. How's that? All right, guys. Since we rounded out this episode, we're going to get to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first?
Sure. Highlight is honestly everything but the bra and panties match at the end. And it's a shame that they put this on TV because everything else about this Raw was really good. It's definitely worth all old school 90s wrestling fans to go and watch this episode, but holy shit, just cut it off at the end. Or just fast forward to watch that Double J promo to end the show. There's no need to go over my low light. I basically baked it into my highlight there.
Highlight, I have two. Razor Ramon Owen match, fantastic. I think there's no surprise there. We called it last week how good this match was going to be, and it lived up to it. My second one, King's Court with William Shatner. A shocking surprise. One of the best celebrity cameos we've seen. Definitely a highlight there. And low light, no shocker, the final match, tuxedo bullshit with Finkel and Whippleman. Overall, this was a much, much stronger Raw than last week. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's just a shame it had to end on this bullshit.
Yeah, I'm going to be agreeing with Joe on this one. I was thoroughly entertained by just about all of this episode of Raw. There, you can have an argument about like the Hakushi match and certainly about the King Kong Bundy match, but in their own ways, they were kind of entertaining. It was fun thinking of things to say about Gary Sabaw, and it was fun seeing King Kong Bundy get his 5 denied
again.
Yeah. And it was cool to see Matt Hardy. It was a minute, 6 seconds, but it was cool to see him. And then there was this fucking god-awful tuxedo match with the Bushwhackers, and well done, and just all of it. And the fact that Shawn Michaels had to sit there and talk about it as if it were real entertainment, that was just kind of like the icing on the cake for me, because I've come around to Shawn Michaels on commentary. I was never like against him before, but I was always kind of just wishing for the Macho Man, But lately, the past couple episodes, I've started to kind of take a shine to him, and listening to him kind of he didn't really, but he kind of had to put over this match a little bit, and it just wasn't. It was like, God, even fucking they have to make Shawn Michaels do this shit. What a dick, Vince. And that's it. That's all I'll say about it. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around January 9th, 1995 for us?
It just so happens I do. Dave Meltzer completely disagrees with us on this King's Court segment. He absolutely hated it.
What a moron.
Yeah. He said that Jerry Lawler has he has showed how little pride that he has left in his profession by doing this. So, yeah, he hated it.
So his biggest problem was basically that it was a sellout move promoting Tech War.
I have a feeling, Dave Meltzer probably hates
fuck
any
off.
Celebrity, any celebrity involvement whatsoever. Is Bill Shatner 90 years old now? Is that how old he is?
He's really old. I know he's in his late 80s.
Because he mentions that he's 65 here. Looks pretty good for 65. And, even now he looks pretty good for 90.
Actually, I believe today may be William Shatner's birthday.
Holy
Jesus
shit.
Christ, Ryan.
Holy
Hi,
shit.
Maury. Oh, I hear the keyboard going over there.
Please confirm.
Oh, I'm sorry, yesterday.
The fact that you know that at all.
He was 89, so close. 89 yesterday.
Oh. Shit. All right.
Well, happy birthday, Shat. Belated.
Anyone out there, if you were wondering about my Trekdom, I even know the birthday is William Shatner.
God, I can't believe you used to bust my balls over this shit, you fucker.
It's a shame that Ryan is our editor-in-chief because he's not going to remove any of this. Meltzer describes the Razor versus Owen match as the best Raw match in months, and I have to agree with them, and I think you guys would too. Mm-hmm. We've been getting some real shitty matches recently. He gives it 3 3/4 stars because he's a douchebag, and we'll just give it 4. He describes the Fink in his red underwear marching around with the Bushwhackers after the match as probably the most embarrassing thing on television in a long time. Oh, boy. Chris Candido and Kama are working house shows right now with jobbers, so
yes.
Looking forward to seeing those guys. Vince tried getting several wrestlers into an episode of Baywatch for some cross promotion, but was turned down. I know that WCW guys were on Baywatch at one point, like Vader and Hogan, but I don't remember any WWF guys. So that's probably true. And I wanted to mention something I heard on Jim Cornette's podcast this week. We talk about it all the time with them piping in crowd noise, and the subject came up because of what's happening today with the empty arenas due to the coronavirus. And somebody was on record. Who was it, Ryan? Was it JR?
I think it was Lawler.
Or Jerry Lawler, yeah. Said that they should pipe in noise. And Jim Cornette basically confirmed that Vince used to do that all the time in the 90s. Those were his exact words.
We're well aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
He actually mentioned that WCW used to also try to do it, but it was so bad that you could hear stuff from the match they were piping in over top of the match. Like, you could hear like 2 counts that weren't even happening. That's how bad it was. So I just wanted to mention that. And that is all I have this week.
All right. And that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on January 16th, 1995, with matches featuring Lee Toblin, Mantar, and many more. So for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.